Going for two, kickers are extra, I give them the boot. Ooh, going for two, sit back, relax while I grab me a brew. Ooh, now I'm reclining while putting my time and I'm ready to go. My spine is aligning and much my lineups, my bank account grow. I am so rich, but knowledge is all that I'm leaving it with. Ooh, listen to this, multiple options, how far can I get? Ooh, DFS Dynasty redraft tonight, I'm not finishing last. I'm finishing past any and all, I am looking to last. What else? This spot is popping and I am so locked in and only opening the door when it is opportunity knocking. And all of these spots keep on talking and talking. So what are we talking? What kind of alignment? And running it deep, even players forgotten or came from the bottom or hitting that top. And this spot is popping, yeah, this spot is popping. And woo! This is the armchair, yeah. Put up your arms, yeah. Sound the alarm, yeah, yeah, yeah. Woo!
What is going on, guys, and welcome to episode 366 of the Armchair Fantasy Show. It is our last show of the season, our official last show of the season. Of course, we come at you from Going for Two Live Podcast Network. We come on Twitter, we're on YouTube, we're on Twitch, we're on goingfor2.live, the website. You can now find our reels on Instagram. We're everywhere. So let me introduce my co-host, as always, joining me, Mr. Tim Strobel. What's up, Tim?
Oh, man, I'm happy to be back. It's a Go Pack Go slate, so you know I'm happy about that, man. And we got the Who Dat Goat in the house.
Yes, sir, we do. Of course, if y'all don't know who Garrett is by now, he's been on the show a couple times this year, and he's also the one that won $100K in week one. So we're having him on for the final show of the year. Of course, you can find him at the DFS Roundtable on Facebook. What's up, Garrett?
What's up, guys, man? Glad to be here. It has been a fruitful year, to say the least. My best ever in DFS football, man. A little over 175,000 so far this year.
Good stuff.
Yeah, by far. Like this, it's like not close by far.
Yeah, when you hit 100K, it usually changes things pretty drastically.
Let's come back with another $100,000 win to end.
There you go.
Start the playoffs. This is week one of the playoffs. Let's keep it going.
Let's do it. All right. As always, guys, the show is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Check out their best ball leagues, huge tournament, private leagues, pick-ems for all major sports. Use our promo code GF2 to get a deposit match up to $100. It's as simple as that. Use promo code GF2. And we're going to be doing a ton of best ball leagues this offseason. So if you're not already on the app, make sure you get on there and look for our leagues. We'll be running a bunch of those this season. And some housekeeping real quick, since this is our last show of the season, I will say that we are coming back to our normal show on our Wednesday nights, the week of the Super Bowl. You can look for me and Ryan. We'll do our typical props show the week of the Super Bowl. And then after that, we jump right into all of our dynasty coverage. We'll be doing rookie profiles and getting ready for the dynasty season. And, of course, we'll have our annual NFL mock draft show as well, which I know Tim's super excited for. And I'm sure G is too. He got mad at me last time because I said he wasn't excited too, but he's in the chat, so he's I'm sure he's excited for that show as well. So we'll get him on sometime in April as well. But let's go ahead and jump into the slate. And just to preface it, we're going to be doing the entire 6-game slate. I know it's kind of hard to break it up because the main slates are Saturday. There's a main slate on Sunday. The 6-game slate isn't a main slate. But the ownership's about the same and the prices are about the same. So we'll just do the entire 6 games, and then y'all can pick and choose how you want to play this weekend. Let's go ahead and get to the weekly rewind first.
The weekly rewind. Rewind.
All right, Garrett, we talked a little bit pre-show here because you have one bad that I want you to talk about. But go ahead and give us your good first, and then we'll talk about your bad.
Yeah, my good was Mullins stacked with JJ, and I, had Lamb in there as well. Them three just went off the charts for me and kept me in there. So the thing happened with all these $2,500 tight ends, and I heard a guy bring up Tommy Trimble's name and Thielen. We wasn't sure if he was going to play and all this stuff, and somehow that name just got stuck in my head Sunday morning. And I told myself, man, with all these $2,500 tight ends, nobody knows which one of them is going to hit. I don't care what you do. If Tommy Trimble goes out there and gets 3 catches for 30 yards and falls in the touchdown, he at 0.33% owned. I was the only person with him. You know, he may get lucky and help me win more money in a tournament. And so I took a craps roll with him, and it was horrible, but could have been worse. So
he still put up more points than Noah Gray, who was chalk.
that's what I
goose.
was very surprised about it. So I ended up with 155 this week, which I was about 8 points shy of cashing. So that kind of sucked, but it happens.
Good old Tommy Tremble. Love it.
Yeah.
Tim,
And
I
think y'all are going to talk about him too. So
yeah, so I'm coming off my best week of the year. Last week, as you guys know, I had no show. I put my whole shit on the table last week and gave out all of my plays in the DFS roundtable. I said JJ and CD were locks. I like Nick Mullins, but my play of the week was James Conner. A lot of people went with Chris Olave. A lot of people went with DJ Moore. But I said, nah, man, it's a Conner slate. It's a Conner slate. And he absolutely crushed it. I think I had 180 points in cash.
Wow.
So I was like 25 points over the optimal line. I was like top 5% in several GPPs. Coming off 2 big weeks, but last week was my best week of the season. I had like 6 or 7x my buy-in. So,
nice.
Want to keep that rolling this week. Very rarely do I put my shit on the table like that, like I did last week. But I'm really happy it worked out, and hopefully you guys made some money too. My only bad call was Jordan Mason, but he was chalk, so it didn't really hurt me. But yeah, with the news that came out that Elijah Mitchell was going to start and play, I probably should have pivoted. But at that point, I liked my lineup so much, I didn't really know how to get out of it. And obviously, it didn't hurt me. Like I said, I had my best week of the year.
Yeah, good stuff.
who did you roll at tight end?
I went with your boy Jawan Johnson, actually, because I had an extra 600. I really like Johnny Munt, but I didn't want to have 3 Vikings. And so I had an extra 600 cash. So I went ahead and went up to Jawan Johnson. He didn't really hurt me, but he didn't do much either.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, so my one good, I knew everybody's going to be paying down at tight end. That was kind of the hot thing to do. So I was like, I'm going to flip the switch and I'm going to go a little bit high. I went with Evan Ingram. So he was my one good. Had almost 24 points, very low owned because everyone was paying for those cheap tight ends. So that really helped me out. And I had been kind of leaning on my one bad here for a couple of weeks in a row. He'd been getting a ton of targets, some good volume. I thought for sure he'd get some good volume in this game. JSN, Jackson Smith and Jigba, did absolutely nothing for me, unfortunately. So that was my one bad. But I think overall, I had a couple good plays that were able to carry me in cash, catch a few of my GPPs. I wasn't quite as good as Tim with my best week ever, but it wasn't a bad week either. But I'm excited about this week because I've been waiting for this week for a while now. So we're going to go ahead and jump into the quarterbacks.
Let's talk quarterbacks.
And Tim,
real quick before we get into the slate, I just want to highlight what you said earlier. We crap on DraftKings a lot of times on this show for their pricing, but they really priced this slate well. I like the fact that they kept the pricing across all of the slates basically the same, and they gave you a lot of low priced options to where you can build lineups that actually look good. So you're going to hear us talking about a bunch of plays this week because of all the slates, but I appreciate DraftKings keeping things the same so that I can, stack my favorite lineup across multiple slates.
Yeah. 100%. And I don't know who that is on Facebook talking about Joe Flacco and me being the same age. The crazy thing is, I know it's an old joke, but I'm actually older than Joe Flacco by quite a few years. So I know Joe Flacco's up there in age for football, but he's definitely not up to my age yet.
I know he's closer to my age than yours, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right.
How old is Flacco? Like 38?
38, yeah.
38, yeah. So I'm 46, so I got him almost by a decade. So
yeah, I'll be 40 next Sunday on the 21st.
There you go. So you got him too.
Yeah, a little bit.
All right, Tim. So I'm going to kick it off with you here because you have so you mentioned pre-show, maybe you can mention it now about how much has changed since Wednesday, and some of it has to do with weather. And the quarterback you have here in your elite tier, obviously, is a quarterback that does not have to deal with weather.
Yeah, whenever there's weather slates, I always like to highlight the games that are in domes, right? And, the highest over-under of the entire weekend is the game that I will be going to on Sunday. And or I guess it's the second highest. I'm sorry. Second highest is Cowboys and Packers. So I'm starting right at the top with Dak Prescott. As I mentioned, a lot of value has opened up over the last couple of days. to where you can play the Dak and CD stack that a couple of days ago looked like it was impossible to get to. Now, with that said, because it's going to be super chalky now, right? But I find it hard to believe that any other quarterback wide receiver pairing has a higher upside and certainly a higher projected score than Dak and CD. So I'm going to have a lot of Dak Prescott. As I told my buddy yesterday, if the Packers win and Dak sucks, I win. If Dak goes off, then I win anyway. So I'm hedging my fanmanship a little bit on this, but I think Dak this weekend just looks so good.
Yeah, I love that call. Garrett, you have a guy that I also have in my elite tier too, and I did my sheet a little early this week. I did it on Wednesday, so I'm curious, with the weather that's going to be happening in Buffalo, and you got Josh Allen there at 8K. Are you still rolling with Josh Allen here with the weather?
Yeah, I'm definitely off of him some. I think he could still be effective. I mean, snow tends to lead to more runs. It's cold. He could get a passing touchdown and 2 rushing touchdowns. We've seen him do it multiple times this year. I think he can get you there, but I'm definitely not on him as I was earlier in this week as well.
Yeah, same with me. I still like it as a pivot. Like Tim mentioned, everybody's going to be playing the games that aren't in the weather. So if you play games that are weather, you'll have that leverage for sure. And I do think Josh Allen, will run more in this scenario where he could potentially get some rushing touchdowns. It's just that 8K price is a pretty steep price to pay for a quarterback when we got some good guys you want to get into your lineup. So I don't quite love him as much as I did earlier in the week, but I think he's still playable for sure.
Yeah, I read my notes wrong. The Cowboys have the highest implied team total this week, not the highest over-under. And one thing I wanted to add to my Dak analysis is that people see the Packers as the Packers are a run funnel. They're good against the pass and bad against the run, but they're quietly 26 DVOA against the pass.
Yeah.
We saw Baker absolutely light them up in Lambeau. He had, I think, 33 points. So they are not the same pass defense they've been in years past. And I think the Cowboys will find a way to exploit it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So the Cowboys have struggled against, I know they've been great at home, but they've struggled against winning teams.
Yeah.
Green Bay's a winning team. So I think I like Green Bay with the points here, +7. And
I agree.
I definitely like the over in that game. I think that could easily go over 50.
Good stuff. Yep. All right, let's move down into the mid tier, and that's where my
lock it in.
I thought it only fitting that my lock-in be Mr. Home Golf, since I pretty much played home golf basically every time that he was at home, pretty much all season long. A couple stats here. He has twice as many touchdowns at home than he does on the road. He's scoring 7 more points per game at home than on the road. Rams are 21st DVOA versus the pass. And this is the highest game total on the slate. We expect it to be a shootout. I think that on the other side, you got Matt Stafford in the quote-unquote homecoming. They'll put up points. They'll force the Detroit Lions to put up points. And at 6.2, I think he's way, way too cheap. I think there's the guy we're going to talk about when we get to receivers. That'll be a great stacking option for him as well. So Mr. Home Golf at 6.2 is my lock of the week.
Yeah, I just want to add one more stat to that that I put in the roundtable group this week. The LA Rams have the highest neutral pass rate allowed in the league over the last 6 weeks. Most teams are around 50 to 60%. They're at almost 70%. So more than 2/3 of the time, teams are passing against the Rams. So I don't know why Goff is priced down. He's cheaper than the other guy that we're going to talk about. But to me, this seems like a no-brainer lock and load Jared Goff week.
Agreed. Why don't you go ahead and talk about one of those mid-tier guys there? Is that the guy you want to talk about?
Yeah. He has both. Okay. I'll talk about I put home Stafford, right? Because everybody's talking about the revenge narrative, him going back to Detroit. He's going to get some claps and he's going to get some boos. But at the end of the day, these are two hardcore pass funnel. Arguably, two of the biggest pass funnels in the league are playing each other this week. And I mean, if Goff, I honestly think this game's a coin flip. I don't think Vegas has it. Let me see. It's a 3-point game for the Lions, but they're the home team. So it's basically a coin flip, right? Like you said, 51.5 over under. There is just as good a chance that Stafford is the highest scoring quarterback this week as basically anybody. Again, like I said, hardcore pass funnel. He's 300 more than Goff. I think Goff is kind of the cash play if you want to look at it that way. But the stacking options for Stafford are super straightforward, right? You know exactly who to go to. Garrett might be pointing out one of those guys later, but yeah, man, I think if I'm doing heavy allocation this week, most of my allocation in GPP are going to be Stafford and Goff stacks.
Yep, 100% agree with that for sure. All right, we'll move to you, Garrett. Here, give me your mid-tier quarterback you got here.
Man, I'm gonna go. Y'all talked about. I got Mahomes on there. Okay, my bad.
Yep.
I'm gonna go Mahomes, and he's 4-0 against the spread in freezing cold games. Fun fact. So I will definitely be taking some KC minus 4.5, and I think that game gets right there around 44. Somehow, it's just too much speed and talent on the field. Mm-hmm. And y'all will find out my lock here. One of my locks here pretty soon. So I think Mahomes turns back the hands of time a little bit. I think he has a good game, man. Maybe 3 passing touchdowns, 300 yards. I wouldn't mind it.
Yeah, and the cold, I know it's going to be really cold. Believe me, I understand it's going to be really, really cold. I don't think I've ever experienced that cold that's to that degree. But when you're out there, when your adrenaline's pumping and you're running up and down the field, eventually you just start to feel warm. Like it just comes back. So I think they're going to be fine. I think maybe the first quarter, second quarter might be a little bit slow, but I think eventually they're going to start lighting it up. And when you can get Mahomes at 7,100, you do that. It's at the playoffs. He's gonna show up. I think he's a great play in the mid tier. I had him as one of my mid tier plays as well. So agree 100%.
And the big thing about that game is, like you mentioned, it'll be cold, but it's not going to be particularly windy. And we find that tends to be the biggest indicator of changes in point values is the wind, right? Not the cold. So I agree. I think they're going to get out there. They're going to run around a bit, and then he's just going to be your normal Patrick Mahomes. So I like that call a lot.
Yeah.
Tim, why don't you talk about the value guy you got there?
I do. Another one of my favorite plays on the weekend, and certainly my favorite play on the Saturday slate, is Joe Flacco. This dude's just absolutely balling. Probably the favorite, right, to win comeback player of the year. All the stats are there. We saw him absolutely light Houston up just 2 weeks ago. Now I do think Houston learned a lot in that game, and they may try and slow it down a little bit. But he's 6,100. Like, that's just too damn cheap. And so I think, if you're playing the Saturday to Monday, I think you play Goff. But if you're playing the Saturday, dude, lock and load with Joe Flacco. Yeah. He's the way to go.
Agreed. And
Jeff Flacco.
Jeff
Flacco.
Yeah, it's with Flacco and the comeback player of the year. I mean, that's a true comeback, right? I mean, he was on his couch, in the beginning of the season. So that's a good.
He has not had less than 22 DraftKings points since week 14.
Wow.
Week 13, he had 17. Since then, 25, 22, 29, 26. And he's 6,100. Yep. They're not going to be able to run against Houston. Again, Houston is another pass funnel, right? Let me look this up real quick. Hold on. I just had it pulled up. Right there, second DVOA against the run, 23rd DVOA against the pass. Mm-hmm. They know there's one way they're going to win this game, and that's on the arm of Joe Flacco.
Yeah, good call. And Garrett, you got the other value quarterback that we all have there. Talk about Mr. Baker.
And real quick, shout out to the chat, man. Gee, I literally just died laughing when I saw that. I'll hook you up, brother. Just get me on your messenger.
Yeah, Gersten on the chat, for those on audio, said if I ever need to hit on a girl I stood no chance with, I'll send Garrett as my messenger. It will 100% success with that voice.
I couldn't help it. That's awesome. We love you, G. Man, Bake Show. I think with all the problems going on in Philly, I wouldn't be surprised to see Tampa Bay come out here, man, and have a solid game. He's been cooking with Evans. We all know Philly's one of the biggest pass funnel defenses in the NFL, if not the top one, the worst maybe on their secondary and how it's been. Especially, I don't know if Slay. Does anybody know if Slay's playing? Is he still injured? I don't know.
He got a full practice in, so I think he's going to play.
Yeah, he's going to play. Even with Slay, man, Baker's going to go to Mike Evans and Godwin early and often, and I could definitely see him at 5,800 having a good game. It's a contrarian play. I'm not. GPP definitely. Just 300 more, you get Flacco, and Flacco's just been off the charts.
Right.
So,
yeah, that's a good call. I like that because
trying to get a little different. If you want to get a
Yep.
little different with Baker and need a few $100 and you love the rest of your lineup.
Yep, that's the way to go for sure.
Yep. If there's one thing I will add to that is that pretty much if you're playing the Saturday to Monday slate, everybody's going to be playing the Saturday and Sunday quarterbacks. Almost nobody's going to be playing that Monday night game. We didn't talk about Jalen Hurts, but just real quick, if you do hold on a couple of key pieces for that Monday night game and your weekend pieces hit and you go into that final game with that much leverage, that's how you win a big tournament, right? Figure out, hit all the chalk during the week and then play Baker or play Hurts that nobody else has. I have Baker coming in at 6% on the Saturday to Monday slate. So massive, massive leverage there.
Good stuff.
And then how much money does this guy make himself if he messes around and wins a playoff game?
I know he wanted. He got 1.5 million from making the playoff. I think, right? Wasn't that what he ended up with at the last game? So I'm sure there's going to be some kind of escalator if you win some playoff games as well.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking as far as a contract past this.
Oh yeah, 100%.
They've got to consider him serious if you win a playoff game or two.
100%. All right, let's get to the tight ends.
Did somebody say tight ends?
And we got the double drop.
Lock it in.
All right, Garrett, take it away.
Listen, guys, y'all heard me talking about Mahomes earlier. I think this is a Travis Kelce week. I think they have been playing him low-key for the last few weeks, holding him and preserving their best pass catcher, their best player outside of Patrick Mahomes and Chris Jones, specifically and strictly for the playoffs. I think this is going to be a 15-target game. I could see him getting 100 yards and 2 touchdowns, no problem. And I don't see nobody's able to you can't stop Travis Kelce unless you put 3 guys on him. And I don't think they're going to be able to do that with Pacheco and Rice as well. So I love Travis Kelce. He's going to be one of my main building blocks in my bigger lineups this week because I also think a lot of people is going to go away from him just because of the he's had 5 or 6 weeks where he's just not the Travis Kelce we're used to seeing week in and week out. And so I'm locking Travis Kelce in for sure.
Yeah, when can you ever stack Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes for just a little over 13? You know what I mean? Like it's a pretty cheap stack for what kind of upside that they could potentially have for you. So
he hasn't been 6,100 in years.
Yep.
Like literally years. It's insane.
Agreed. Tim, you have the other guy that can be pretty chalky here at the tight end at the elite level.
Yeah, that's the other thing I was going to mention for Garrett is that I think everybody is going to be playing Njoku, certainly on the Saturday slate, but even on the Saturday, Sunday, or Saturday, Monday slate. Njoku is going to be the number 1 tight end, right? Like Travis Kelce, you would think he's only 6,100. He's going to be the absolute chalk. It's not looking like that's the case. So I love that call. I do like Njoku. Obviously, it's a great matchup against the Texans. They are 29th DVP against the tight end. Obviously, basically every game with Joe Flacco, this dude has showed up. Like his down game was against the Texans, and he still scored 16 points. But over the last 4 weeks, he's averaging over 20 DraftKings points. So at 5,600, he just seems like a stone cold lock. If you are playing the 2-game slate, I think double tight end is firmly in play this week. Like my favorite builds for Saturday are Njoku Kelce builds, just because the amount of leverage you get and the amount of upside, right? That's what we're building for. So I'm probably, you guys know I'm mainly a cash player. I'm not really playing cash this week. I'm definitely going full GPP, bro. And I'm going to have a lot of 2 tight end builds.
Yeah, I love it. That's all we have for the elite level. So I'll bring us down into the mid tier. And I got Mr. Fergie, Jake Ferguson. For the Dallas Cowboys, again, going back to the highest or second highest total on the slate versus Green Bay at 4.7. I mean, this guy's been super consistent. You look at his targets over the last couple of games, 6 targets, 6 targets, 8 targets, 8 targets, 8 targets, 8 targets. I mean, that's consistency right there. So I think Ferguson, again, looking at ownership, people are going to either go up in Njoku or they're going to probably potentially pay down at tight end. So guys that are in this mid-tier range, which I know Tim's got a couple guys he likes as well that are in this mid-tier that are going to be pretty pretty low owned, and I think they're going to be pretty popular plays. Good plays for leverage and GPPs. So yeah, Ferguson at 4.7 against Green Bay. Tim, you got another guy there that I like. I almost put him on my list too, and then I saw him. You had him on yours. Go ahead and talk about
Yeah, I was kind of surprised neither of y'all had him. I think one of the big pieces of news that came out this week is that Gabe Davis is not going to play. I think it's going to pivot a lot of people to a couple of chalky low-end wide receivers that we'll talk about. But I think the real leverage is playing Dalton Kincaid. This dude, again, like you said, has been super consistent over the last few weeks. Last week in that Miami game, he seemed to be the only person that Josh Allen was consistently looking to, right? I'm going to pull up his stats here. Give me just 1 second. Last few weeks, 8 targets, like you said with Ferguson, 8 targets against Miami, 7 targets against New England. He had a couple of down games before that, but 8 targets against Kansas City. Like, this is probably the most consistent pass catcher for the Bills right now.
Yeah.
Right? And this is a weather game. Like, there's no doubt about it. There's going to be wind. There's going to be snow. They're saying gusts above like 30 miles an hour. To me, that just sounds like a perfect tight end game. I do think that you could probably stack Josh Allen with just one of his pass catchers, and my preferred one would be Dalton Kincaid.
Yeah, I love that call.
And he's cheaper than both of the other 2 mid-tier guys, right? Like, he slots so well into builds if you're going to pay up at quarterback.
Agreed. And I saw
Watt is not playing. Watts for Pittsburgh.
Yeah, TJ Watt is out. Yep.
Yeah, he's out.
Yeah,
he's going to need a couple weeks.
That's going to give Allen and company a little more time to survey the field for sure.
Agreed.
Yeah, they're not the same defense without TJ Watt. That's for sure.
No, 100%. No, not even close.
So I'll just quickly mention the last 2 tight ends that we had in the mid-tier. Dallas Goedert, who Kyle mentioned in the chat. Obviously, there's some injury questions with the Eagles. I think they will play. A.J. Brown may not play, but Dallas Goedert at 4.8. And then Schultz versus Cleveland at 4.4. I know Cleveland is really tough against tight ends, so he's more of a leverage play, GPP play. So I do think that with C.J. Stroud not having all his weapons there, I think Schultz can become a safety blanket in that game. So at 4.4, I like Schultz as well. We'll move down into the values here, and there's not a ton of value down here, but Garrett, you have a guy that we all like. Talk about him a little bit.
Yeah, man. Let me get there. Kraft, Green Bay, 3,300, man. I think Musgrove was supposed to be the guy in Green Bay, and I don't typically speak more to the heck happened there, but is
Injury.
It just Kraft and Jordan Love have a better connection? And they're a young football team, man. They have a ton of talent, and Jordan Love is just as not a Packer fan, I couldn't be more impressed with this guy stepping in behind Aaron Rodgers, man, this year. He has freaking balled with a team, probably the youngest team in the NFL, I think.
Yeah,
so yeah, their next couple of years, or maybe this year, you never know. You can get on a run, you get in the playoffs. And their next couple of years is going to be awesome to watch, man.
Yeah, I'm not saying that Jordan Love watches the show, but if we were like back in like week 7, week 8, I said I was going to put up a whiteboard here that says Jordan Love is trash. I swear to God he heard me, bro, because he's been balling out since that time, bro. Absolutely balling out. Like, they're like, oh, man, Christian Watson got hurt. He can't find anybody. And now we're going to talk about it later, but like, how did we become at a point where Dontavian Wicks is like a household name? Yeah. Like, this dude is turning nobodies into ballers. I don't understand it, but I'm so happy to see it, man.
Yeah.
You know those weird scenarios where the number 1 goes down, and so we can't force feed them the ball anymore. So we're actually a good team when we're not doing that.
Yep.
Crazy.
Definitely seemed like one of these scenarios.
I was gonna say the exact opposite. Like, this seemed like the easiest way for Jordan Love to be like, well, we could have done well, but Watson got hurt, and then Musgrave got hurt, and then Aaron Jones got hurt. He didn't care. He just kept balling. Yeah. Look, I was just gonna say, final thought on tight ends. There are so many good value wide receivers this week that I don't think you have to punt tight end. Okay, I think you can play the mid range, you can play the high end, play your Njoku's, play your Travis Kelce's. If you want to play Ferguson or Kincaid, I love that. But I just don't love Tucker Kraft. He can realistically get you a 6 this week or less. And there are a couple of wide receivers in the under 3K range that should absolutely ball out. So now I'm not saying don't do it, because I think there's some leverage there, but I'm going to be very, very light on the punt tight ends this week.
Yeah, which is not usually what we say on this show. We usually
Right.
punt tight end show. Like we just love punt tight ends. This week we want to pay up for them.
Agreed.
I support that.
Let's get to running backs.
It's time for running backs. Running backs.
We're going to kick this off with a little bit of a controversial call here. Tim wanted me to go to him on this one because he has on the sheet. Well, I'll let you explain it, Tim. Go ahead and talk about it.
Okay, so this is purely based on price, okay? We talked about that the Detroit Lions are a massive pass funnel, okay? They are second in terms of DraftKings points allowed. They're like first or second in terms of rushing yards allowed. I think there is massive leverage this week in fading Kyren Williams because he will be super chalky. And if you look at his games this year, every one of his big games have come against run funnels. Arizona, Washington, the Giants, Indianapolis. He had one good game against San Francisco, but that was week 2. Since then, he had a 7 against Philly. He had a 17 against Baltimore. Against Houdat, he had 19. At 7,300, that's just not going to get it done. There's so many good wide receivers on this slate. There's so many tight ends you want to pay up for. I'm not saying he's a bad play, but I'm saying there's massive, massive leverage in fading him this week. So I'm not going to maybe go with a complete fade, but I am going to be very, very low on Kyren Williams this week because I'm going to be smashing the Rams and Lions passing attack.
Yeah, that's it. I can see that angle for sure. I have Kyren Williams as a play, but because of that reason, I can see where the leverage you get by fading him. And you're right. I mean, the Detroit Lions, the run defense is legit, and it's a lot to pay for a running back when you got some of the receivers we're going to talk about here in a minute.
I was reading they hadn't given up more than 60 rushing yards since like the middle of the season. Like they have that shit on lock.
Yep.
Now he does get some action in the passing game, but he had 1 week where he had 6 receptions. Most weeks he's averaging 2 or 3 receptions. So it's not like he's going to go out and get you the 7 receptions you can get from the guy you're going to talk about here in a second.
Yeah, 100%. Garrett, who do you have in your elite range here?
I've got a little bit of Kyren. Honestly, with the way I'm lineups though this weekend, he's probably not going to make it in a lot just because of his price and everything. So I'm kind of with Tim on that. But I do like Achan. I think Mostert is questionable but unexpected to play. Am I saying that right, guys?
Yeah, he's questionable, but I think he will play. I think he took last week. Play? I believe he will play. Yeah.
Oh, that's gonna kind of bring me off of him a little more then, which is gonna drop me down right to where I want to be, which is Aaron Jones. Man, I'm big on AJ this week. No, Dylan's. That's what it was. Dylan's unexpected to play.
Yeah, Dylan's not going to play. Yeah.
Yeah. So that just sets up perfectly for Aaron Jones. First playoff game for Love. Check down to Jones a lot. They're playing Dallas, which that's how you get Dallas is run straight at Micah Parsons, right?
Yep.
And you can gash them. We've seen it all year, and so that's one of my favorite plays on the slate as well.
Yeah, I think the Dolphins have been holding Mostert for this game. That's my personal belief. They didn't play him the last 2 weeks. They gave him limited practices all this week because they believe the way they win this game is running the ball at Kansas City. I think nobody's going to play Mostert, including myself. So I think he's probably one of the best leverage plays on the slate. But I mean, look, Kansas City is 5th DVOA against the pass, 27th DVOA against the run. Like that's how you win. If for whatever reason he does get rolled out at the last minute and they say he's not ready to go, Achan's one of the best plays on the whole slate. Yeah. At that point, you just got to lock him in. We saw he scored 28 against Baltimore, which is one of the best run defenses in the league. But I think both guys play, which makes it hard to play either one. I'm glad you talked about Aaron Jones, so I didn't have to. There's already going to be a lot of Packers on this show. I'm going to talk about a little bit of narrative, but this dude absolutely owns the Cowboys historically. And whenever A.J. Dillon does sit, they just absolutely feed him the rock. He had a knee issue earlier in the season, and once they said, okay, he's good to go, the last 3 weeks in a row, he's had over 20 touches. Like they eased him back that week against Buffalo. They only gave him 17 touches. In the last 3 weeks, 24, 21, 27. Like they know that balance and play action is how the Packers could possibly win this game. And that starts with establishing the run with Mr. Aaron Jones.
Yeah, good call. I like how Tim is like, I'm glad you mentioned Aaron Jones, so I don't have to, but now I'm going to talk about it for 5 minutes.
I did.
Who's their slot guy too, Tim, for Green Bay? Because that's another. I think Dallas is stronger on the outsides, right? With Gilmore.
In general, they actually are pretty good against the slot. Jordan Lewis, I think, is their slot corner. I don't know. I think it's probably going to be mostly Jaden Reed or Dontavian Wicks. I think it's going to be mostly Jaden Reed. But I want to talk about Isaiah Pacheco. Yeah, no Bears players on the slate. That's perfect for me.
I got a little off topic there.
Yeah, well, I'll look it up before we get to wide receiver. But talk about news of the week. With all the cold, right, in Kansas City, like Pacheco went to the absolute stone chalk of the week, and he's 6,400. I told you guys in the pre-show this 6,000 range is where I'm going to be living at running back. I think I'm going to have a lot of Pacheco, Aaron Jones lineups just because I think that, they are the guy. Right? Like, we're not worried about CEH. We're not worried about, we said AJ Dillon's not going to play. Like, these guys are both going to get 20 plus touches. Regardless of whether it's a narrative or not, we have not seen these Miami Dolphins play in the cold. Maybe they can, maybe they can't. But if Kansas City gets up, like your boy Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes score a couple early touchdowns, it's going to be the Pacheco show after that, right? The one thing we know about Andy Reid is he likes to run the ball in the playoffs. Going all the way back to his days in Philadelphia, he will give his running backs 20-plus touches in the playoffs, and that's how they're going to finish this game out. So, yeah, G in the chat, call him Money Pacheco. I completely agree. Cash that check on Pacheco because he is going to take him all the way to victory this week.
Yeah, I love it. There's one guy that I had in the elite tier that we haven't mentioned yet, and what I want to say on this game, there's 6 games. And there's no quote unquote bad teams, right? There's no team we're really picking on because these are all pretty good teams. They're all in the playoffs for a reason. And when they get into the playoffs, you lean on the guys that kind of got you there. And Rachaad White is a guy that was getting 23, 24, 25, sometimes 28 plus touches pretty much every week. And I like Rachaad White again this week at 6.9. I know Philly is tough against the run, but Rachaad White gets a lot of use in the passing game as well. So I like White based strictly on his volume. He's going to get a ton of volume in that offense. And I do think, again, a leverage piece by having a Monday night player, and you're paying up for 6.9, where, as Tim mentioned, a lot of good running backs in that 6K and below range that they'll be playing. If you pay up for Rachaad White, you got that chip in your bag going into Monday night. So I like him a lot going into to this weekend.
Yeah, one thing I will add to that is that Philly was a strong run defense earlier in the year, but as the season has gone on, they've become softer and softer against the run. They're now up to 22nd DVOA against the run. So they are actually a plus matchup for Rachaad White, and they do give up a lot of receptions to running backs. So I think he is, again, a huge leverage piece if you play Saturday to Monday, having Rachaad White ready to go on Monday night. Because you're right, people are going to want to play the pass catchers. They're not going to want to play him.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Let's see. There's a couple more guys there, Tim, that you want to talk about real quick in the 6K range.
Yeah, I'm going to skip over. I'll just mention Gibbs real quick. I think he's a good play because he's the pass catching back. You can't really run the ball right at the Rams, but you can throw at him a little bit. But James Cook, he's probably another one of my favorite plays this week. I told you guys I'm going to live in that 6K range. Since Joe Brady took over as their offensive coordinator, they have just absolutely highlighted James Cook. Obviously the big game against Dallas, but it's not just his use in the running game. They've been using him consistently in the passing game as well. I think that, it's going to be in those conditions, right? They're not going to be throwing a lot of downfield passes, right? I think it's going to be a lot of check down stuff to James Cook, which I think suits him well. He's getting the volume, right? 20 plus touches in, 3 of the last 5 games. So yeah, he's coming off a couple of bad games. And I think for that reason, you're going to get him at lower ownership. But how do they win this game, right? How does Buffalo win? Is it on the arm of Josh Allen? Maybe. But is it also on James Cook? Very possible.
Yeah, if I would have told you like week 6, week 7 that James Cook would be 1,000-yard running back, you would have laughed at me. But like you mentioned, as soon as they changed the coordinator and they started going to James Cook, he's been a beast. So yeah.
Yeah. And one thing I will add to that as well is earlier in the season when they got inside the 5, it was like the Oh God, I just forgot his name.
Latavius Murray.
Thank you. It was the Latavius Murray show. And the last few weeks, he's actually been getting the red zone touches. He had 4 red zone rushing attempts last week. He had 4 red zone rushing attempts the week before. Like, I'm not going to say playoff Lenny can't, steal a touchdown, because it's entirely possible, but they're actually giving him the work between the 20s as well as inside the 20. And I think that's the important thing, because, touchdowns are what's going to make this slate, right? I don't think we have that perfect running back spot this week where it's just a no question, lock that guy in. I think HN would be maybe if Mostert is out, but outside of that, like, all these guys kind of have warts, including my boy Aaron Jones. So I think
that's blasphemy.
You don't know? That's blasphemy. I'm sorry. Take it back.
All right, I only had one more guy. I'm just going to mention him, Tony Pollard. I know we have a love-hate relationship with Tony Pollard. He gets to the point where we think he's playable, he screws us, and then sometimes he goes out and has a good game. But at 6.1, I think he's still viable as well. So I'll just mention him. Let's move down into the value tier. And Garrett, we haven't gone to you in a while, so give me one of your value guys. I know there's a guy that you said you like. He's one of your best plays on the slate. So talk about Mr. Ford.
Yeah, I like Ford, man. I think they're gonna, feature him big time in this game, man. And 5,500, he's had several really good games with Flacco back there. I know Hunt, same thing, could steal a touchdown or so from him, but 5,500, I'm on the Ford train for sure.
I like it. Tim, what you got for your value?
Yeah, Najee Harris. I mean, this dude's been absolutely toting the rock the last few weeks. They realize that they can win games with Mason Rudolph if they just don't let him throw the ball, right? Like, last week against Baltimore, it was obviously a rainstorm and they were playing against second stringers. But 2 weeks ago against Seattle, they gave him 27 touches. Like, he's not going to get a lot of use in the passing game, which usually we don't want to play on DraftKings. But you're telling me a guy's going to get 25 touches in a bad weather matchup. Like, I literally put on the sheet on a platter, because there was a play last week. They don't even trust Mason Rudolph to give an NFL quarterback handoff where he sticks it in the guy's chest. He literally held the ball out like a platter for Najee Harris to take it off of his hands. Like, that's how little faith they have in fucking Mason Rudolph. So there is no doubt, if this game gets bad, it's going to be the Najee Harris show. I like Jalen Warren. I think he's the more explosive player. But that's not how they're going to win this game. If the Pittsburgh Steelers manage to win this game, it's going to be because they played good defense and Najee Harris runs the ball 25 plus times.
I love it. And I heard an F-bomb in there. So you pulled a Gerson twice tonight. I love it.
I know. I owed one. There you go. Just because G showed up in the chat, I had to pull it out for him tonight.
I had to drop an F-bomb. I love it. All right, so another guy that I had in the value tier, and we've kind of poo-pooed him a little bit, but he's actually had a pretty good season. We kind of nicknamed him Devin Single Carry because he used to just get very few carries, but that has changed. I think his last game he had 24 carries, and I know it's a tough defense in Cleveland, but Single Carry is getting the usage. And at 5.7, he's pretty cheap, so I think he's definitely in play this week as well. All right, we got a ton of receivers to get to.
And now, wide receivers.
And I'm going to hit the double drop.
Lock it in.
And we got 2 locks of the week in this elite level here. But, Tim, why don't you give us yours first?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Sun God, Amon-Ra St. Brown. We talked about it. 2 hardcore pass funnels going against each other. I actually like this play a little bit less. And, again, that's why I love having a Friday show. Because we're the only show you're going to see out there, right, on YouTube that is going to tell you that Sam Laporta is going to play this week. Every other show's like, there's no chance, lock it in. Talking about Brock Wright and shit. Like, no, Sam Laporta will be back. Now, will he be 100%? I don't know. But Amon-Ra St. Brown is the only guy that can match CeeDee Lamb in terms of upside and target volume, right? He's going to get consistently 10 targets, and in this matchup, he may see 15, and you get a $1,000 discount over CeeDee Lamb. So I absolutely love the Sun God this week, whether Laporta plays or not, which I think he will. Like you mentioned, I mean, the Rams, I mean, they are weak across the board, but I looked it up. Give me 1 second here. They are 5th in the league. They give up the 5th most points to the slot, which is where he lines up most of the time. They give up the 2nd most points outside when he does line up. So They are giving up over the last 4 weeks the most fantasy points to wide receivers in the entire league. You think, oh, it's got to be the Commanders, right? Nope, it's been the LA Rams. That's why 2 weeks ago I played Darius Slayton when everybody told me I was a clown, and he absolutely came through with me. And look, I like Slatron, don't get me wrong, but he's no sun god, okay? I could absolutely see him scoring 30 plus this week and at 8K. He's just an absolute stone cold lock for me.
I love it. So let's see. We've had Travis Kelce was Garrett's lock. We've had Home Golf. That was my lock. Tim has got the Sun God as his lock. But you know what? This is the last show of the week, so fuck it.
Lock it in.
We got 4 locks of the week this time. So Garrett, go ahead, give us your last lock here.
I had to go one more, guys. My 2 building blocks of this weekend is Travis Kelce and Cooper Kupp. I think those guys are going to bring the money to me. I think a lot of people are going to be off of them because of Kyron and because of Puka and what they've been doing. And I think it's one of them things, just like Kelce, we've got great weapons here. Let our veterans just kind of ease through these games until we get to the playoffs. And I think Stafford's going to come in hot with Cooper Kupp. And I'm doing it again, another 100-yard game and 2 touchdowns. I will be just fine at 7,500.
I love it. Good stuff. All right, so my elite guy is not a lock of the week, but he might as well be, and that's CeeDee Lamb versus Green Bay at 9,000. I know he's expensive, but I saw a listing of the fantasy players, non-quarterbacks this year, and I was surprised. I thought it was Christian McCaffrey for sure. If you ask any casual fan, Christian McCaffrey had the most fantasy points this year, but no, it was actually CeeDee Lamb. Actually scored more fantasy points this year than Christian McCaffrey did. He's been an absolute beast. He is 9,000, but he is worth paying up for. As you mentioned earlier, Tim, stacking him with Dak Prescott is the way to go to get that high upside. So at 9,000, I like CeeDee Lamb a lot in this elite tier. And since y'all talked about all the other elite guys, I'm just going to mention him because I think this is a leverage play. I think people are going to be off of Tyreek Hill at 8.7. I know we hate to say it on the show. It's a revenge narrative, a revenge game. Gersten's favorite phrase. But Tyreek Hill, the last time they scheduled a quote unquote Miami game in Kansas City, they actually had it in Germany. So he didn't get the chance to have his homecoming. This is going to be his homecoming in the playoffs at 8.7. So I would not rule out Tyreek Hill having a big game, and you'll probably get him at pretty decent ownership as well. Let's move into the mid tier here, Tim. What you got?
Yeah, so I talked about how much I like. I want to say, hold on, you all have that guy. So I'm gonna go. I can't believe it. Okay, there he has it too. Okay, I was gonna say one of my favorite leverage spots this week is playing Mike Evans against the Eagles on Monday night. I know we're gonna talk about Amari Cooper, and I think Amari Cooper will be one of the chalkiest players on the slate, particularly Saturday to Monday, because he went absolutely bonkers against Houston Texans 2 weeks ago. And I think for that reason, a lot of people are going to skip over Mike Evans, who not only has traditionally shown up in these spots, but again, he's just absolutely beasted against any team that's been a pass funnel all year long, right? And we mentioned, okay, Darius Slay may be back, but I think they're going to put James Bradbury on him, and he's historically owned that dude. Mm-hmm. So again, this is not to say that he's the best play on the slate, but I think in terms of upside versus ownership, he might be one of the best players on the slate because nobody's going to have him, right? In this range, they're going to pay up for Lamb or Puka or, St. Brown, or they're going to, play Amari Cooper. And I think people are just not going to click Mike Evans. And I think that's a massive mistake. He's got 30-plus point upside. You're talking about the guys on this slate that could get you 8 for 150 and 2 touchdowns, right? It's Tyreek, right? CeeDee Lamb, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and then probably fourth for me would be Mike Evans. Right? So, I think too many people are going to skip past them. So if you're playing Saturday to Monday, I would definitely have some allocations on Mike Evans because you're going to get there on Monday night and you're going to have a good score. And then you're going to realize nobody in front of you has Mike Evans and just shoot up that chart.
Yeah. And one thing I will say, because there's a misconception that Baker Mayfield can't throw a deep ball, but as far as his metrics go, it says otherwise. He's actually one of the best deep ball throwers in the NFL and has been for his entire career. Now, granted, his places he's been where he hasn't had any deep ball threats, but I can guarantee you Mike Evans is a deep ball threat and he can get him the ball. So I love that call for sure. Garrett, what you got for your mid-tier?
Man, I think the same thing with Collins, Nico Collins. A lot of people's kind of fears this Browns defense. And, man, if one thing we've seen by C.J. Stroud is he's going to get his playmakers the ball. I know Nico's coming off of a big game against the Colts, a huge game. I don't get the feeling that people are going to points chase him on this one just because of all the options we have.
Mm-hmm.
So I like Collins a lot, man. And, with no Tank Dell, I mean, he's got a couple other weapons, but Nico's the guy there.
Nico's
They're going to
definitely
find ways to get him.
Nico's definitely his go-to guy. If you saw the play last week where Stroud's in trouble, he's kind of backpedaling. He throws up what I thought was a ball that was going out of bounds, and Nico found a way to get to it. So, yeah, for sure. I love Nico Collins a lot, so that's a good call.
And just
the only thing I will add to that is that Denzel Ward, who's Cleveland's, top corner, dude's 5'10", right? Nico Collins is 6'4".
Mm-hmm.
He's got a solid 6 inches on this dude. That sounds weird. But nevertheless, like you said, if he's going to throw a jump ball in this late, he's not getting up there with Nico Collins, okay? That, and we know CJ Stroud. I had a stat earlier in the year on Tank Dell. Why is Tank Dell so successful? It's because CJ Stroud, you need a foot of separation, and he's like, that's my dude. I'm throwing the ball. He trusts his receivers basically more than any other receiver in the league. He knows the only way they win this game is throwing the ball with Nico Collins. And I agree. He may get 8 catches on 15 targets, but he's going to see 10-plus targets guaranteed.
Yep.
And I think there's a good chance he gets in the box.
Yeah, I love it.
And, Geoff, speaking about that play you were talking about, man, the mindset of Stroud to not just throw it out of about 5 yards. So his playmaker could get over there and get under was insane.
Yep, agreed. I think, Tim, I see you have that guy highlighted, so I won't talk about the guy you have highlighted on there. So I'll talk about Rashee Rice a little bit.
Go ahead.
Make you talk about one of your Packers. Rashee Rice versus Miami, 6.6. We've mentioned this game already. Obviously, Travis Kelce is there, Patrick Mahomes, but Rashee Rice has proven to be the wide receiver one on this team as a rookie. He seems to be the only one that can catch passes for some reason. So at 6.6 in this game environment, I kind of like Rashee Rice a little bit. Not quite as much as I did earlier in the week, but I think he's still priced pretty well there at 6.6. All right, Sam, talk about your guy there.
I'm going to talk about Jayden Reed. We talked earlier about how, this dude has emerged with Christian Watson out. Now, there is a chance Christian Watson does play in this game, in which case I do think I downgrade him a little bit. But Dallas plays the most man defense in the league, and Jayden Reed has been absolutely smashing man defense this year. So, again, how do the Packers win this game? Maybe it's off Aaron Jones, but I think it's also taking advantage of these matchups. Right. And Jayden Reed has showed the ability to get open against his team. And one thing I really like is they're giving him some touches in the running game, too, particularly when they get in around the red zone. So, he's 5,700. He's priced up certainly from where he was earlier in the year. But I mean, he had a, set 18 last week against Chicago in a game. They only scored 17 points. He had a 4 for 112. He had a long of 59. So like you said, talk about a guy who's throwing a really good deep ball this year, which shocked me is Jordan Love, man. He's really targeting these guys down the field. But the most interesting thing about me for Jayden Reed is he's kind of in a price range where there's not a lot of other guys you want to play, right? Like most of the wide receivers you want to play are in that 6K range or 5K and below. So he's in a kind of an awkward spot, but we talk about how do you pay for Dak and how do you pay for CD and how do you run it back optimally? I think it's him. Yeah. Now, obviously, this is very much pending Christian Watson not playing. He called me a homer. Look, maybe I am a homer, okay? But you have to think about scenarios and how these upsets can occur in order for you to take down a tournament. And one way they win is Jayden Reed, right? Running the ball, getting 10 plus catches and a couple of runs and scoring a touchdown or having a couple of long plays. So, yeah. I'll be honest. I've said this before. I think the Cowboys win this game, and I think that's the chalk. I'm not going to sit here and be such a homer. I say the Packers win, but they're not going to just roll over either.
Yeah.
Right? And whether Christian Watson plays or not, Jaden Reed's going to get his touches.
Yep, I agree.
He's the only guy I feel like really good is actually like game script proof. You know what I mean? They're going to find ways to get him the ball regardless.
Agreed. I'll just mention the last few guys we had in the mid tier so we can get to the value. We had Amari Cooper, who we mentioned briefly, Deontay Johnson at 5K, Devonta Smith at 6.7s in play, especially if AJ Brown is not going to play. We still don't have news on that 100%. Let's move down into the value tier. And Garrett, you don't have anybody listed there, but is there any value guys that you like?
Hey, before we do, I just want to make one comment. If you're playing Saturday only, don't get cute, play Amari Cooper. Okay, because he's easily the best play on the slate, probably other than your boy Travis Kelce. But if you're playing Saturday to Monday, I think there's really good leverage in fading Amari Cooper.
Good call. Good call.
Yeah, I like that. And I was thinking I don't want to say that and get people off of the guy. He's a really good play. Okay. Yeah, I'm just gonna slide over and steal you guys' chalk plays or the value tier because it's all the same for me, man. I probably like Demarcus Robinson the most at 3,600. I think he's probably gives me the most assurance at any of them getting to 20 points, I would say. Now, maybe with the Gabe Davis news, Shakir sneaks up a little bit on that. So I haven't had a lot of time to think that through, honestly. As a matter of fact, he definitely sneaks up on that list. But, man, that's going to be 38-mile-an-hour winds, brutally cold. I can really see that Bills-Pittsburgh game just Najee on a platter, Cook on a platter, hand the ball off all game, and just get in the fourth quarter and go try to win it. You know,
doing the what is it? The bobsled with Fournette and Josh Allen. Y'all see that? It's not the tush push. It's the bobsled.
It's the bobsled.
Man, I forgot about Uncle Lenny. There's 3,400. There's probably a prop out there that I'm going to jump on for playoff Lenny. So
playoff Lenny.
Yeah.
Like I said, the slate has changed so much in the last couple of days. I had one stat on Demarcus Robinson real quick. Since Sean McVay took over with the Rams, he is a big fan of running what is called 11 personnel, which is one running back, one tight end, 3 wide receivers. They run 3 wide receivers on 97% of snaps.
Lord.
Okay? Demarcus Robinson runs as many snaps as Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. Okay? He is out there every snap. So we know Detroit, they give up a ton of points. I think he's honestly underpriced by like $1,000. He should easily be a 46. I think he was 4,600 during the regular season. Maybe DraftKings is just trying to be nice to us so we can put together some decent lineups this week, because I don't understand why Demarcus Robinson is $3,600 unless they just know something we don't. But I agree. I think Khalil Shakir and Demarcus Robinson are the chalk in this range. That's why I said I don't want to play 3,300 Tucker Kraft, because Shakir and Robinson just have so much more upside than he does. I'll leave you to talk about the other Green Bay guys, so I don't go full homer mode here. Go ahead.
Real quick, Tim, does that make you change your mind all about Kyron with this extra value opening up at receiver?
No. It makes me want to play like Amon-Ra and CeeDee and then play 2 cheap wide receivers, right? Or play Amon-Ra and then pay up at tight end, right? And then play like a mid-range guy and then a punt. I think a lot of people, because of Shakir and Robinson, are going to jam in Shakir, Robinson, CeeDee, and St. Brown. And at that point, like, you almost have to build a chalky lineup, right? Unless you're playing somebody like Kareem Hunt or playoff Lenny, you're going to be on the same build everybody else is. Yeah. So this guy was almost my sit call until I saw Sam Laporta was going to play, and that's Josh Reynolds. I know, the Jameson Williams, who Geoff you have, is kind of the hot guy, and obviously he's the flashier player. But Josh Reynolds is playing over 70% of snaps for the Detroit Lions. And I know we're not going to talk about revenge because Gerson's going to get mad at me, okay? But he is Jared Goff's guy going back to his time with the Rams, right? They have a great connection. And if I'm doing a Jared Goff double stack and it's not with Sam Laporta, here's a little preview for later. I think Josh Reynolds is going to be basically unowned. We're talking like 1% on this slate. He probably will be a little higher owned if you play Sunday only. But in my opinion, like in this range, if everybody's going to play Robinson and you got an extra $200, I think, especially we're talking about Khalil Shakir, right? Like he mentioned, 20, 25 mile an hour winds at 3,400. He could realistically give you an 8. If Josh Reynolds gives you a 15 or something like that, then at that point you're sailing.
Money.
So I actually think Josh Reynolds is one of my favorite players on the whole slate. Because if he gives you 10, then
Reynolds,
that's nothing.
Yep.
Yeah. You take it.
Yeah.
You stack everybody else. Yeah, he did.
He played for the Rams.
He did.
And then played for the Titans for a while, I believe.
Yep. Yeah, when Goff first got to the Lions, man, he needed somebody that he could kind of rely on. And in the beginning, Reynolds was that guy. And obviously him and Saint are now best friends. But Josh Reynolds is still that dude. He still gets good targets. He still plays a ton of snaps. Yeah. No more revenge, Joe. We're out of you guys are just...
I love revenge narrative. It's one of my favorite things to play in DFS.
Yeah, Gerson will tell you it doesn't
some people hate it. It's always worked well in my favor.
Gerson
hates it. But for some reason, I'm not on Tyreek Hill this week. I don't.
Yeah. But like I said, even more than the revenge, like this is a guy that's playing almost every snap. This is a guy that's still getting good target volume. And he played he's averaging 70 to 80%. Just play him. How many other guys not named Demarcus Robinson are playing that many snaps below 4K?
Yeah, agreed.
And nobody's talking about him. All the shows I watched this week, I did not hear one person mention Josh Reynolds. And they talked about guys like Marquez Valdez-Scantling and Justin Watson. And look, I'm not, I'd much rather play Josh Reynolds in a dome than MVS, who can't even find the ball half the time.
Yeah.
100%.
Watson, maybe, but definitely not MVS.
Yeah, there's one guy we haven't talked about yet that I want to make sure that we mentioned, Dontavian Wicks at Dallas 4.8, as Tim kind of alluded to. He didn't want to mention any more Green Bay Packers, but I think this is even more dependent on Christian Watson than even Jaden Reed is. I think Christian Watson needs to be out for Dontavian Wicks to have value, so keep an eye on that news. I did have Jameson Williams at 3.5 on my sheet because I think he was getting 6 or 7 targets a game. He's been really coming on lately. He has yet to hit the big one, right? He's supposed to be the big play receiver. We have yet to really see that, at least in the passing game. So this could be the game that he does it. And, why not in a playoff game? So 3.5, he's definitely worth a play as well. All right, let's get to the defense. Defense. Sorry, Gary, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Go ahead.
I was going to ask if he was able to look that stat up about which Green Bay wide receiver plays the slot more, because I think that would be the way to go in the pass game, because you're going to have Gilmore and Deron Bland on the outside, most likely, right? And so
it's Jaden Reed. He plays about 2/3 of his snaps in the slot.
Jaden Reed, Jaden Reed.
Yeah.
That's my
all right,
guy,
Tim.
Man.
So to me, it's the Chiefs, right? If you're playing Saturday, it's 100% the Chiefs. If you're playing Saturday to Monday, it's basically the Chiefs. If you absolutely need to save 300 on the Saturday to Monday, I don't hate the Steelers. But if you're playing the Sunday slate, the Bills are going to be the chalk, and for good reason. They're going up against Mason Rudolph at home and 30 mile an hour winds. But I think the Chiefs are just too cheap, really. They should be up there priced with the Cowboys and the Bills, and you're getting a 600 discount. So the Chiefs are by far my favorite defense. And then it's Bills or Steelers, just depending on which way you want to go.
Yeah. And I did have I know you had them too, Tim, but the GPP, I had the Packers, and a couple of reasons why. One, they're playing the Cowboys, and the Cowboys have imploded in the playoffs. They're kind of famous for that. Dak Prescott's had an amazing season, but Dak Prescott can turn the ball over. He did a lot last year. He's been very good this year with it, but it's the playoffs, and the Cowboys like to implode. And I saw a stat too, and I don't know the exact number on this, but the Packers have won in Dallas a couple consecutive years in a row, right, Tim, or a couple games in a row.
Yeah, I don't think they've lost in Dallas since 2010s. It's because I keep going to all the games, right? They have not. They are undefeated in games I have attended. I will be attending this Sunday. Very happy, anxious to see if that streak continues. But the stat that I had for the Packers is they have not had a 0 all year long. Even in they gave up a ton of points against Tampa Bay. They still had 6 points, right? They gave up a bunch of points against Minnesota. They still had 12 points. They gave up 29 to Detroit. They had 15 against Detroit on Thanksgiving. They're not going to give you a 0, right? They're not going to be the highest scoring defense, okay? But they're not going to give you a 0.
Yeah.
So if you have a lineup that you absolutely love and you need to save a few hundred, like I think there's legitimate leverage there because nobody's going to play the Packers. I'm a Packer fan. Obviously, I'm not going to have Mitch Packers, right? Because I think that there's a good chance that they do give you 1 point or 2 points and you're wishing you paid 600 more for the Chiefs because they're going to give you like a 9 or a 12. But there's a scenario where you stack Hill and CeeDee Lamb and Amon-Ra St. Brown, and the only way you can get there is playing the Packers D, and then they end up being optimal. So I don't think it's a bad GPP play, but if you are playing cash or single entry, look elsewhere.
Yeah, Chiefs is the way to go in the cash.
Chiefs is the way to go.
Yep, 100%. So you have the same defenses that we did, Garrett. Anything you wanted to add to the conversation before we get to our stacks?
No, I don't think there's much you can add there. That's definitely the way to go. I don't think Dallas is going to somehow bust Green Bay in the head enough to make me go $3,600 on them. Buffalo's a good spot. Yeah, that's Tampa Bay a little bit. I think if that game shake right with that new, be some more leverage, do a Mike Evans Tampa Bay defense stack. You could, or a White. You know, I know we stack a lot of times with the running back, but I'm definitely okay doing a wide receiver defense stack.
Yeah, we talked about it. Jalen Hurts did get a full practice in today, but that finger is obviously not 100%. We know AJ Brown may not play in this game. There is definitely ways to failure for the Eagles. And as we talked about, a ton of leverage playing games on that Monday night if you're playing Saturday to Monday. So I think that Bucks GPP call defense is not bad, particularly if you're going to play with Rachaad White, because I guarantee that stack will be super low owned.
Agreed.
And then Josh Allen, for me personally, it's a coin flip between Caseberg because it just depends on the rest of my lineup, really, because, man, Josh Allen can throw 2 interceptions on a perfect day. This is going to be hella windy and hella cold with one of his best wide receivers out of the game.
Yeah, I like it.
I call him Josh Winston for a while. Like he's got some Jameis in him. Like we saw that play against Miami where he literally threw the ball in the back of the end zone and just hoped the guy caught it. Like he's definitely got some Jameis in him. So I'll agree with you there.
Good stuff. All right, let's get to our stacks.
Goingfor2.com's weekly stack report.
All right. Per usual, Tim was the first one to fill the sheet out, and he definitely took the stack that I wanted to take. But go ahead and give us your stack, Tim.
I did. I took your boy home Goff. I could have taken the other side of it if I would have known that because I really like Garrett's lock with Kupp. But I'm going to go with Jared Goff just because I think he's underpriced. Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's my lock of the week. And then to get a little bit of leverage, I'm going to go with the lower-owned pieces of Josh Reynolds and Cooper Kupp.
Nice. I like that. I like that a lot. Garrett, you got a stack? You don't have it on the sheet there, but I'm assuming you have a stack.
Yeah, man. And I'm going to do the opposite of that. I'm going to try to go Matthew Stafford.
Oh, I thought for sure you were going Mahomes and Kelsey. Like I was already typing it in for you.
And listen, that the -6 right now is a little too much. If it comes up a little bit, maybe, because that was definitely, I'm thinking about it for sure. But I think Stafford's going to go home and show Detroit not only his Super Bowl ring, but exactly why they should not have gotten rid of him.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
So my stack is going to be pretty chalky because, like I said, Tim took mine, and I could have gone Dak with Dak and CD as a good stack, but it's so expensive. But my chalk stack is going to be Pacheco with the Chiefs defense. I think Pacheco is going to be probably the chalkiest running back. Chiefs defense we just talked about, one of the chalkiest defenses, but you stack those two together, I think you're going to be good. So that is my stack of the week. And it is the final sick call of the year.
And now, the sick call of the week.
Before we get to the sick call, though, I want to call Tim out on this one because Tim goes into the sheet first, and he will put a red box or a green box next to the sick calls if we got them right the previous week.
I knew you.
And I logged in and I looked at Michael Wilson, and I'm like, I had Michael Wilson. I'm sure he did well last week. He had a touchdown, and Tim's got him in red, and I'm like, oh man, Tim is trying to screw me over because he definitely had a good game. He had, I think, 15.5 points at 3.5. So I hit my sit call last week. It's only my third hit all year. So Tim's trying to take away that last one that I got there.
Yeah. So it was 2 weeks ago, and I'll give you that. I was looking at the wrong line, which is why I did that. But I really was just amazed at the fact that this year we've missed a lot of sit calls, but when we've gotten them right, we've gotten them really right. Week 1, you had Puka, 3K. He scored 24.9. Week 2, I had Tank Dell, 20.2. And then 2 weeks ago, I had Juwan Johnson against Tampa Bay, where he scored 23 DraftKings points at 3,400. I told you 2 of my best weeks for the last 2 weeks. And 2 weeks ago, it was because I had Juwan Johnson. So I'm going to go ahead. You see my Packer hat here. I'm going to go ahead and put the Homer hat on for the last time this year. And I'm going to go with Bo Melton for Green Bay if Christian Watson does not play. Over the last couple of weeks, he's the guy that's gotten the most snaps in his absence. And, Jordan Love, he actually will throw the ball to this guy. And, we were thinking maybe it's going to be Malik Heath, but it looks like it's been Bo Melton. So if Jordan Watson doesn't play, he's another one of those 3K receivers you're going to want to have in the mix, along with the guys we talked about earlier.
Yeah, good stuff. And I know you called out a couple of our good sit calls, but we have a couple good guest sit calls as well. I think it was Pedro that had Slayton at 3.2, who had 18 points. Gerson in the chat had the Broncos.
Yeah, the Broncos D. Yep. D. That was such a good call that week.
Yeah, they were the number 1 defense on the week, and they were playing the Chiefs that week, and we thought for sure the Broncos D was terrible, and they showed up big. So yeah, we've had some really good sit calls this week. Garrett, what you got for your sit call?
Man, I'm gonna go Quez Watkins here. $3,500 Monday. Especially if AJ doesn't play. I think that's going to set up nice for him, man. Yep. We're going to get green down here in the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree. I like that call a lot. So I had a hard time finding a sit call. I mean, it's always hard when you're only choosing from 6 games and, a lot of these guys are priced up. But there is one player that was kind of a playoff hero for this team last year. Then he got traded away. McCole Hardman versus Miami at 3.1. Ended the season with 11 targets, 6 receptions. I know a lot of the players weren't playing in that game, and it was a meaningless game, but he caught the ball, which is what these receivers really can't do right now. So I wouldn't be surprised if they try to find a way to get McCole Hardman the ball, in some screens, just get the ball in his hands. He is an exciting player, and he can catch it. So that's one thing that the receivers right now that they don't have the ability.
Yeah.
I'll take Hardman at 3.1, just above minimum salary there. All right, fellas. Well, that wraps up the last show of the season. We'll go around the room real quick. Give any shout outs, anything you want to plug. We'll go to you first, Garrett.
Man, I just want to shout out you guys for doing this week in and week out, and continuing to invite me on the live with you, man. I hope we have many more years to come. And shout out to the GOAT G over in the chat for keeping me laughing all episode.
Stuff. Tim?
Yeah, man. We always say if we don't win a GPP, we hope one of y'all does. And I'm glad to see Garrett's able to feed his family, his large family, off his GPP winnings this year. I will continue to post my plays throughout the playoffs. So definitely jump in the DFS roundtable group and see who I'm playing. I'm on a good streak right now, so hopefully we can keep that going.
Good stuff. I want to thank everybody in the chat, everyone that's listening on audio. If you're listening on the YouTube replay, we appreciate each and every one of you joining us every single week to watch this show. I know some nights it was 11:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and y'all still showed up for us every week. So really, really appreciate that. We'll be looking forward to next year. And like I said, if you're into Dynasty, we're going to be rolling right into our Dynasty coverage right after the Super Bowl. We got rookie profiles already lined up, ready to go this year. So we're going to be hitting the rookie profiles really hard, doing some mock drafts. So still some exciting things to come for this off season. And I want to thank Tim, my co-host, obviously as well, showing up every week. He's got a tough job where he does this basically for his job all day, then comes and spends an hour with me on Fridays to talk more on the computer. So I appreciate you, Tim, coming through.
I do. I literally switch from one headset to another on a Friday night. So I love it, Geoff. I look forward to it every week, being here with y'all and everybody in the chat. I appreciate y'all showing up all year long and supporting us. And, definitely look forward to coming back next season.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right.
And as Geoff, sneak preview though, we may end up seeing some UFL in the spring.
Yes, there is the potential. I gotta work on Tim a little bit. He's a little wishy-washy right now, but we might have some UFL. And if you don't know what UFL is, it's the XFL and the AFL combined into one league. So UFL, DFS.
If I can't do it, y'all make show love to this platform, man. Share it, like it, share it. It helps the algorithm. It helps get it out to other DFS and football fans. Man, let's help grow this channel, man. These guys are great at what they do, and they spend. I know Geoff, man. He spends a lot of time doing this. Tim does as well. So much me, but man, let's help grow this. Going for 2, guys.
100%. Appreciate that.
Got one more shout out. One more shout out.
Go ahead.
Hoo-ah!
There we go. We didn't have one all show.
There it is
on there, but I love it. I love it. All right, guys. For the last time, for Tim, for Garrett, I'm Geoff. We will see y'all next year.
Go Pack, go!
Go ahead, Garrett. Hit us one more time.
Hoo-ah!